All right, what is up, everybody? Will here from Misfit Medicine, my co-host Jack. We're here for, I think it's episode 4 now, or 5, something like that. We originally called it the case studies, covering different events in lifeguarding. This one's going to be a little bit different. We have Taylor here. I posted something on Instagram one day. He reached out to me. It was in regards to lifeguards getting dropped out of helicopters. So we're going to go over that, but a little bit of background about myself. My name's Will. I am the owner of Misfit Medicine. I also work as a paramedic in New Jersey, and I also work as an ocean lifeguard in New Jersey for Seabright Ocean Rescue for the last 7 years now, something like that. So going on, having a good time.
Yeah, I'm Jack. I'm the chief of Seabright Ocean Rescue. I've been a lifeguard at the public beach in Seabright for 11 years, and this is going to be my 4th year as the chief on the public beach.
And then we have Wes and Taylor. If you guys want to get into it, kind of give us a little bit of background about yourselves, your work experience, what you like to do in your free time, that kind of thing.
So I'm Taylor. I've done 4 years as a beach lifeguard here on the beautiful beaches of South Alabama, and 2 years as a lifeguard supervisor, going on my 3rd year, so 7 years total. Started off getting into this in spring of 2020. I'm in love with it immediately. Loved the fast-paced, high adrenaline environment, and went from there through fire school, EMT, and currently am a registered nurse. And in my free time, when I'm somehow not working, I'm either doing a whole lot of nothing at home, or I'm hanging out with some of the goons trying to catch what little waves we can, or even hitting the range, playing with a couple little pew-pews. Yeah.
And I'm Wesley. I've been with lifeguard since 2018, and I did a small stint at a neighboring beach, and then got hired on the full fire department over there full time. Got hired on in 2019, so then I flip-flopped back over here. Yeah, I've been lifeguarding here since 2019. Let's see, been a paramedic since 2024, and now I just operate as a tower guard / paramedic / firefighter. I do a little bit of everything.
And what beaches is it that you guys specifically work at?
So we both work at Orange Beach, but I started in Gulf Shores.
Okay, and is that are they year-round lifeguard services or just seasonal?
Now they are. Now they are. They have full-timers with supervisors on both beaches.
Okay, and then is it through the fire department or is it independent?
It's like a branch underneath. It's like a sister.
Okay.
Both departments for both cities, their lifeguard agency is a division through the fire department.
Yeah.
Which can be a double-edged sword. It's really nice in that we are able to have the same amount of resources and that immediate connection with the fire department, because obviously their budget is going to be, way blown up compared to if we were a standalone agency.
Yeah.
Especially in Alabama. But at the same time, it still comes with, the drawbacks of being a part of a much bigger machine.
Right. But we get all the same training, and we do a lot of group training together. So if we have a pretty hectic scene or pretty high acuity call, everybody is very cohesive. Everybody joins in together. Everybody knows their role. So it's really worked out in the long run for us, especially when we have guys from the fire department coming to work whatever we got.
Yeah, that's something that's kind of, I wouldn't say unique for you guys. It's unique for us because in Jersey, and we figured this out when we went to Oklahoma City this last summer to do a Swiftwater thing.
But yeah, I remember that.
Career fire departments is not like a huge thing up here. Like in Jersey, there's a couple big ones like Jersey City, Newark, Camden, places like that, and then there's scattered smaller ones, but as a whole, it is not a common thing. Like volunteer firefighting is huge around here, and there's not a single beach in New Jersey that their patrol's associated with the fire, or it's under the fire department. Because there's only one beach town near us that I can think of that has a paid fire department, and they're separate. But regardless, we work pretty hand in hand with our fire department, but we're not technically a division of it because it's volunteer in our town. But that's something that is unique to us. When we went down to Oklahoma City, we were kind of like, shit, I wish that was more a thing.
So you're going to get the water before them, but
Right.
we assist each other wholeheartedly, but it's just not a legit paid crew.
It's not under their department.
Yeah, so one of the best things I've ever done was respond to a storm call from the fire truck and ditch my duty pants for shorts. And when we got to the scene here at the air brake pool, your lieutenant's just like, hey, dog, I'll find you. Go. Grab fins and a tube, baby, and just start running.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
fun.
that's awesome. All right, I will get into the meat and potatoes of this, and I'll kick us off. I want to know how in the fuck did you guys start dropping lifeguards out of helicopters, and how did that come about?
Yeah, so I think originally back in 2009, 2010,
Yeah.
the state law enforcement agency back then, uh, they got together with some of the guys in the fire department. They said, hey, what if we started working on getting lifeguards to drop out of the helicopter? And at that time, I mean, yeah, it's the state, but the state doesn't have that many helicopters. So they brought down a Huey. You can't hear anything. And at that point in time, they literally just put the lifeguards in shorts, tube, fins, nothing else. Just feeling every bit of wind in this big ass bird flying down the beach, and
Yeah.
nothing happened for like 4 or 5 years. So they're like, okay, this is a money pit. We're just burning dollars. So let's shut it down for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we brought it back in 2022. And this time they brought down a Bell 407, which a lot of HIMS units use it. They use a modified version with either that rear sliding door or the rear door. The version that we use.
It's like almost the mid-size helicopter, right? It's not like the super tiny ones that
Right.
you have to get the weight.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you saw it fly by for just a second, you might think it was like a little bird or something. It's not that cool, but
Yeah.
I mean, it is pretty slick. It's a 6-seater, so 2 in the front, 4 in the back, 2 rear facing, and it's got a sliding door on one side, and all the other doors that pop out. They brought it back. Initially, it was going to be the same thing of, hey, let's put lifeguards in it. Let's put 2 guards in it with the pilot, and they'll go up and down the beach, because I think all in all, we've got from the end of the peninsula on the west side all the way over to the state line, which is the end of RJD here.
Yep.
We're right at about 31, 32 miles of sand.
Yep.
And so it was more than anything, it was kind of just a big PR thing. It looked really
Yeah.
cool.
Yep.
It was cool joint agency training.
Yep.
And the initial training day, we went over the SOPs, procedures, and all that. It was a double red day. It was like 8 foot with like 9 to 10 foot sets.
Yeah.
And
It was blown out like crazy. It was like a real cold day in March or February, something like that. I can't remember. But they're like, hey, we picked a couple guys who've been here for a while. They, shown some, like seniority, leadership type. They picked all the good qualities. And we're like, hey, we're going to let these guys do it. I showed up to work one day and like, hey, we're going to do helicopter training. Come again. And they're like, yeah, we're going to do some helicopter training. We're going to drop you out at State Park. I was like, cool. I love it. I'm not scared of it. And, get there and it's all of us homeboys. It's all the dudes that we kind of started up together or in the fire department with. We're very, all network really tight together. And so, man, I remember having a blast. But I will tell you that the pilot that was there, he was like, hey, I don't know these beaches. Y'all tell me what you need to do. So we did. We got him orchestrated where we needed to go. The first time he dropped me, it was still close to the sandbar. We timed it right. But I could still kind of touch bottom. So I come back up, gave the signal, hey, it was too shallow. So the next drop, he's like, you just tell me where you want me to drop me. I was like, all right. I was like, let's go a little higher, though, this time. Man, when I tell y'all, when I jumped out the second time, I jumped out, I was like, man, this is so cool. And then I was still falling, dude. I was like, man, what is going on? I was like, I'm still falling. And then I hit the water. I was like, hey, that was great. Gave the signal. I was like, I'm all good. That was fantastic. Great height. All of it was good. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. So did you guys have like a guard that used to be a rescue swimmer of any sorts, or like who came up with the initial like, hey, how are we going to go about this?
We've had guys that have gone on to become rescue swimmers, but they were not nothing prior to coming up.
The initial plan was just like, hey, we got this helicopter. We're going to put guards in it, and like the operating guideline is we're just going to put them out from a safe height into the water and go that way.
Yeah, and I think part of the justification was, so with that 32 miles of beach, we've got about 7 or 8 on our side of the island, and then Gulf Shores next door has about 12 to 13-ish, and then all the rest of it is unincorporated. So it's just county land. There's no municipal FD or even lifeguards at that. It's volunteer based, and the only people that are out there all the time is going to be 1 or 2 sheriff's deputies. So not really equipped for swimmer calls, especially if it's a legitimate rescue
For sure.
going on. And so I think that was kind of the justification behind it of, we could either have someone respond on a ski that's going to take 30 to 45 minutes because of the distance, or we could have a helicopter.
And right, if we're going to that call, conditions are not ideal. If it's not flat, you can't run it skint back. You got to go 15, 20 miles an hour, and that's probably pushing you're in nothing but chop. It just, the need was there, and they really didn't have any idea otherwise. I think Dad was the one who initially networked it. He was the chief at the time.
Yeah.
And so I think he all networked it together. And when we came back in 22, we had a couple. I don't think we ever had any deployments in Fort Morgan, but we had a deployment here.
We didn't have any deployments.
I thought you had one then.
We had it after that initial 2020.
Okay, so it's in 23. I thought in 22 we had a
22.
Okay, we had a day in 22. It was like right around Labor Day weekend.
Yes, it was Labor Day.
Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day itself.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Labor Day and for us here, Memorial Day.
One of the holidays.
One of the holidays. One of the ones in like May, where like the water's starting to warm up a little bit. But we had a big swell coming through, and for us, our Tower 3 is our hot spot. We get a lot of rips. There's more condos, so we have a lot of people fluctuating in these areas that get swept up, do the thing, right? Well, all of our zones were hot that day. Every single one. From 1, 2, 3, and I think we just had 5 back then. We didn't have 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 5. So we had all of our zones. Everybody was getting a little bit of love. And since I work in Gulf Shores, the next city over, like I'm getting all the alerts, all the 911 alerts from the fire department side, and they're getting it too. So we got the bird down that day. Y'all had a couple close calls. It just so happened lined up where y'all were like if you were in Orange Beach, Gulf Shores getting it,
Yeah.
and then you slide down to Gulf Shores for a little while.
It was a blue ball weekend.
It was.
No one in the helo was getting anything because, like Wesley was saying, it was the seniority basis, and so we didn't have any like 1 or 2 people that were in it the whole weekend. It was like, hey, you get a day,
Yeah.
and that's it, and then you're back on the beach the next day after.
Yeah.
So,
And Taylor and another guy, our homeboy Adam, they were out, and I think y'all were just coming back. Either y'all were coming from Gulf Shores or going to Orange Beach, but y'all jumped in right on the city line, right on the JD.
yeah. So with that one, it was Memorial Day, and it was probably about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a swell, but it wasn't a massive swell. But for whatever reason, and this is something a lot of people don't get when it comes to the Gulf, I think because of how relatively small the Gulf is compared to the Atlantic and Pacific, when we have rips, they pull way harder than you would think. And I think it's just because there is so much less volume in totality. So we can have a small day, wave size wise, but the rips could be absolutely yanking, and that's what this day was. I mean, I think we had like maybe 2s with the occasional 3 foot coming through, but the rips were absolutely yanking like a river. And so 2 o'clock Memorial Day, and nothing happened the first 3 days, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We go up, and I remember getting on the headset, and I told Adam, the dude next to me, I was like, dude, we got to drop in. We've burnt thousands of dollars of taxpayer money for nothing. Like, this shit's awfully quiet. And maybe 30 seconds or a minute later, tone goes off, screeches in our ear while we're going the opposite way in the helo, and it goes out, and they say swimmers in distress, 8 swimmers in the water at whatever location in Gulf Shores. We tell the pilot, like, hey, we got to turn around. He's like, all right, I hope you got your seatbelts on. Man cranks it up, only leaps it back, rips ass maybe 20 feet off the water, and we're just zooming. And when we get over there, there was a tower. There was one of the Gulf Shores towers, maybe 100 yards and some change away from where they were at. And this rip was probably about 50 or 60 yards wide. But if you were 6 feet and some change, you could touch the bottom, but you weren't going to move. So like you think you could walk back in, it was not going to happen. Yeah. And so we're getting over there, and we're like, oh my God, this is actually happening. This is crazy. We tell the guy, because he's a doctor, dude. We were one place. My stomach was another 200 feet down the beach.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, yep, this is happening. Yep. And sure as shit, we're looking. We're like, yeah, dude, these people got the face of death on them. We got to get in now.
It ended up being like a 13-person rescue. It was crazy.
Yeah, I think we had like 5 or 6 transports. 2 air transports.
Yeah, 2
one
air
of them was a
transports.
scene flight.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
a big scene. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
like,
a big scene.
obviously it sounds like, because kind of my next question, which you guys kind of answered, is like, okay, you guys started this and you're getting grabs off of this helicopter. Like, doesn't sound like it's like everyday kind of thing, but you are pulling utility out of this helicopter and getting grabs from it. But how often would you say that these grabs are in the unincorporated area versus where you guys have stands? Because kind of my thought when you guys said that is like, say you get that grab in the unincorporated area. Are you dropping like one swimmer out of the helicopter and they're just like, their job is like, hey, we're going to round people up? Like, hey, if it's one person and I'm close enough, swim them in. But say you have like that 8, 10 people that get pulled out and you're dropping in, is kind of the policy like, hey, we're going to round them up and get them controlled and secure and then just like wait for more units to come to work on this? Or how does that usually go?
You probably can answer that one better. You were there.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We've had a lot of calls for service in the unincorporated area, and based on what the conditions are and how many people there are, I mean, if it's a handful, we can drop one, maybe the second swimmer two, get them back to shore, and then start working from there. But if it is, a mass rescue, or if they are far enough away from the shoreline and conditions warrant that it would be easier for them to maintain flotation instead of trying to bring them back through the surf, we have actually coordinated with the Gulf Shores Marine Division of the Police Department, our Marine Division of the Police Department, as well as our fire boat, as well as the Coast Guard, to signal and relay, hey, we're going to keep the guards and the swimmers out in the surf beyond the break. That way they can maintain them and keep them from submerging. And then we'll just wait for a pickup.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of that was where my head was going.
Especially too, like heavy day, like we're kind of busy, whatever. It's nice that we have that air asset. If we need to deploy both swimmers, we can, but we need to be able to take that guard to that far away place that doesn't have any kind of protection on it whatsoever. So that's kind of like our mindset is like, hey, we'll deploy a second swimmer, but if you can mitigate it as best you can with one until I don't want to say like other lane units, but like people driving by truck or side by side or jet skis or fire vessels or any kind of rescue vessel, you can hold it down, signal it, hey, we're good, and we'll keep circling and keep an eye on you. And then if the call for service goes out, they're ready to take that. So.
Yeah, and it's not going to be a shock or a surprise to the guys and gals that are in that rescue swimmer position for that day, because they know what we're going to expect of them. We tell all of our first year guards, like, hey, you should absolutely be able to pull in one person without a question, hopefully two. Mm-hmm. All of our senior people, hey, you should, regardless of conditions, be able to pull in two people. Our people that we're putting in the helo, we're like, you should be comfortable bringing in 4 people by yourself, and you should be comfortable like having to stay out for at least 30 minutes minimum if need be. They know that if there's 2 or 3 people, we're probably not going to send the second swimmer in.
Yeah.
Now, have you guys ever been in the situation where it doesn't even have to be a mass rescue, but say someone's like so far gone or just in a bad situation that you drop your swimmer and then instead of waiting or bringing them in if it's too far away, like hoist them back up into the helicopter? Like, is that ever a possibility?
They don't have that capability. They don't have a winch on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Bell that we fly out of does have a mounting plate for hoist capabilities, but we don't right now, as of this moment, do hoisting. And I think it's because it has to do with JD lines between the state and federal and, division of services between us and the Coast Guard. Because our waters don't go, I think our waters are maybe like 3 or 4 miles off the coast. So to an extent, I mean, we'll keep the air asset, we'll keep eyes on someone with a swimmer in the water for as long as possible until we know that they're in a better position and we don't need to be there any longer, especially if there's another call for service. But as far as hoisting goes, that's a big point of contention. We're actually trying to argue out right now whether the pros outweigh the cons or vice versa.
Yeah, because you answered my question, because I was going to ask if you guys did hoist, but my next question from that, how do you get, like, say you drop a swimmer in the water, rescue over, how do you recall that swimmer back into the helicopter? Like, is it just like someone drops the LZ and like picks him up, or is the helicopter just like, hey, that looks good?
Any of the supervisors who are in the beach trucks that day, obviously call for service, or if something maybe like the bird recognition kind of deal, like, hey, hey, this is us. We're seeing somebody. Will you send a supervisor over this way? We're probably going to deploy a swimmer. We'll talk to them in the radio, give them like a little heads up, so they'll get a guy coming. But whether we deploy in Gulf Shores or Fort Morgan or in Orange Beach, we have somebody with a vehicle of some sorts, predominantly in the pickup truck that will scope us up and drive us back to our LZ, which is in the state park. So.
Yeah. Once the swimmer deploys from the helo, they're not getting back in. They're not from the water or the beach. They're gonna have to grab their victim, bring them back to the beach, hopefully, and then once all is said and done, once they get transported or they refuse, and then they go back in service, then some supervisor somewhere is going to scoop them up and bring them back to the LZ where the helo is stationed at for the day. Which actually, that's exactly what happened after that mass rescue that we had. Is me and the other guy, we got done, we field triaged everybody, we tagged bagged, and then we left. The Gulf Shores Beach Chief brought us back to the LZ, and helo was already there because everyone's already out of the water. He's already shut down, and as we're like, man, that was crazy. That'll never happen again. Gulf Shores Beach Chief is driving away, and I've never seen him do anything he has not had to do. That is the most energy efficient man I've ever seen in my life. But he's driving away, and then he turns his lights on and turn back around real quick, and we're like, that's weird. And he gets back out, and he's like, hey, Orange Beach has got a 5-person call, like right there at this condo. And we're like, I guess we're going again. Yeah. And so loaded up, did it again, and 2 grabs in the same day. And it was the first 2 that the program had ever had.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I guess I keep on thinking of follow-ups, but how long would you say it is from, say, like the helicopter's off to, like, from dispatch to, like, you're in the air responding? What would you say, like, the average time is for that?
I mean, so our current pilot, because we'll have the same pilot, he's dedicated to this detail. He'll be there 99% of the time. He'll do his morning checkoffs, and if we do get a call for service while we're in our little command post, we'll get the dispatch directly from our 911 center. And when we hear them call for us, because we're on a separate TAC channel, we establish a TAC channel for the LZ and for the detail the whole day. So we don't actually get the tones when we're in the command post. We will hear them call us out, and they'll say Air 1 from Baldwin Central, and we're like, okay, let's go. And so the pilot and the 2 swimmers will go out, and from the time that they say that we're off the ground, it's right at a minute and some change. And I mean, it is moving with a quickness. And from that point to getting to where we need to be, we will be from the LZ, getting just up off the ground to over the beach, all doors closed, going $130, $150, maybe right at 2 minutes.
Indeed, there's nothing better than both doors being shut and scooting. Great.
That's pretty sweet, because I know, like, here in Jersey, like, I don't have any personal experience with helicopters at all. Like, all my helicopter knowledge comes from, like, listening to podcasts and hearing about, like, HEMS and stuff like that. And so, like, I know in Jersey, we don't deal with helicopters too often because we just have enough trauma centers around us. Really, unless it's a burn, because the burn center is like an hour and a half away from here, and there's only one in Jersey. But usually, even for that, I know HEMS around here, from what I understand, like, hey, they get the call, and then they have, like, this whole big long protocol that, like, the pilot assesses weather, looks at the location and the flight, and assesses if it's a safe flight or not. And I guess, like, that's a little unique because I think they're covering a lot more air per se, rather than like, hey, you guys have this dedicated 30 to 35 mile span that you're covering, so you know it's this spot. But I know for them, like, there's always discussion of, like, hey, if you request a helicopter to a scene, you might be waiting like 30 minutes or more before that helicopter actually touches down on your scene. And then maybe, like, you get a job, like, if it gets coded as like a burn and they know it's bad and they know it needs to go to a burn center, like, they might auto launch the bird. But then even so, like, I've gone to scenes where that's happened, and I've had like a 5-10 minute response time to the scene, been on scene for like 5-10 minutes, transported to the LZ, and then maybe, like, we're getting to the LZ and the helicopter's like on approach. So that's why I asked, because in here it's a little bit longer of a process, and I just know that, like, HEMS traditionally they've had some, like, crashes and stuff like that, so that's very, very regulated now. And I know it's also like a hot topic within the HEMS community, their safety stuff. So, like, I get it, but I was kind of curious as to, like, hey, what your guys' takeoff times were and response times and all that good stuff.
And that was a really big thing that we had to talk with Dennis, the pilot in charge of the whole program. So he will be at the hangar doing his checkoffs, and he'll be doing his slow, methodical checkoffs at about 6 in the morning. The helo doesn't touch down at the LZ until about 10. So, and he's got about a 30-minute flight time from where the helo's hangared at to the LZ. So,
Yeah.
as far as the major, nuts and bolts checkoffs, he'll knock it out in the morning. And then as far as trying to cut down those times, so one of the great things about it being a state law enforcement helicopter is every time we go up, if it is a call for service, he will call into the nearest control towers in Gulf Shores, and he will not even request, he will say that we're getting VFR state clearance. And so he's essentially telling the control tower, like, hey, regardless of what you do or don't do, we are expecting that you will shut down the entirety of the beach area's airspace from surface to about 500 foot up.
Shit.
Because there's going to be a state helo, and it is going to be moving very fast.
Yeah.
So, and that helps us out tremendously, because I'm sure it's probably the same with y'all, like the banner advertisement planes. I don't know if y'all got hammer sailboats. I mean, all that stuff. Everything you can think of, it's in the way. So when he does that, he's doing that as he's spooling it up, and we're getting in, we're doing our equipment check off in 30 seconds. And so by the time we get up and going, it's kind of cool. It's almost like a Red Sea moment. You see all the banner planes, they all just scoot off another like quarter mile away from the beach. Hell yeah, dude, let's go.
We had a call for service one time. We did our first morning run. And that's the other thing too. We do patrols, so we try to mitigate that ground time. The only time we're really touching ground is lunch, and obviously depending on conditions. But if it's like pretty non-hazardous conditions, we will be on the ground a little bit more than like a busier day, or like, hey, surf looks a little rough today, we're going to be flying a lot more, burning a lot more fuel. But we were on approach to the LZ for refuel. Just finished our morning patrol, and we were about to touch back down, get some lunch, and then go back up in the air. But we were flying around on approach, call for service down at Fort Morgan. Pretty far down there too, so we knew we had a haul. And I think we were in the reserve bird, so we weren't able to shut the doors. But the dude was still scooting, I'll tell you that right now. I felt like a headset was about to just blow right off my head. But he same thing, he called, hey, got a call for service at this place, we'll be heading at this direction, airport talk, blah, 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 0099, whatever the heck. And dude just took off. And you couldn't see it because you were facing us, but me and our partner just saw just everything just like clear out. Everything moved. It was just like, he was like, all right, cool. Yeah, we got you guys. Y'all go ahead. And then they radio to all the other radio banner planes, student pilots, because we do a teaching program at that airport and other stuff. So it was really unique to see.
Are you guys all year round on the helicopter? Is it like 12 months out of the year that you're doing this, or is it more seasonal when it's like the summer months that you're doing this 9 to 5 kind of thing?
So now it's based on like anticipation of need. So we'll get a scan, like especially during like hurricane stuff. The only time that we're really not flying is if it's like severe rain and thunderstorms. Wind, we get a lot of wind here, and so it's like we'll fly, but depending on where it's coming from, may make it more ideal or not ideal. So that kind of thing. But typically we fly on bigger weekends where we expect bigger crowds and stuff like that, especially if the surface up. But if we know that ahead of time that, hey, like we're going to get like 3 to 8 foot surf, we're going to be flying red flags, like, hey, y'all, we're going to stand up the bird. Our chief does a really good job about letting all helicopter trained individuals know, like, hey, stand up the bird, these weekends are available, check crew sense, make sure you're not working, but, jump in and get you a spot if you want it, kind of deal. So.
Now, what's like the water temp? Like, what's the coldest it gets to in like the winter months? Like, are you guys kidded? Like, will you guys wear like wetsuits and like booties and hoods, or doesn't get that cold, right?
I mean, it gets cold, right? It's like that right now.
Our cold right now is like laughable to y'all.
It's laughable.
Like, I think 61, which is frigid for us.
There are guys here, like the surfers, I should say. All your diver guys, they have a thicker wetsuit and stuff like that. All your free divers and whatnot. But all your surfers here predominantly rock a 3.2 or just a 2 mil, or 0.5 to 1. Like it's pretty light stuff, and we're not running around there in booties and gloves and a skull cap or nothing like that.
So when you're jumping and it's like 61-degree water, you're still boardies and like maybe like a rash coat.
Listen, and this is gonna get put on the air, so I don't care. But I'm a big proponent of we're lifeguards. Like you don't need to have something like inhibiting you from doing your job. So like I'm a big proponent of. Man, I'm going out there in just board shorts, regardless of what water tip is. I will get warm eventually. Like I'm not gonna get hypothermic and freeze out here. So I always tell them too, especially when we get jellyfish real bad. I'm like, Man, this is your job. You should be wearing a rash guard and stuff. Just go out there in your board shorts. Just eat it.
You need to come up to
Fully agree.
You need to come up to Jersey and we'll have that talk after a month. Because what does ours get to in May? 50?
May it can still be as cold as like low 50s. Like we could be in like 51 or so.
Yeah.
Like we usually do training the first week of May. Whether we have this guy come in, Mike Mather Rescue, and he teaches us like swift water and the bay side. Then we'll do some jet ski stuff in the ocean side, and like we get some surf. It's still like early May, but like we have kids that are wearing like 4.3s, 5.6. I'm in like my 2.2 short sleeve, and I'm like, you guys don't know what cold is. And I'm like shivering. I'm like, you guys are fine.
Well, we've had a few years ago in May, they do a fireman's fair in town every year. And the lifeguards will like help out volunteering, like working the stands for it. And I remember it was like, I think it's like mid or early May. So there was a water rescue call that went out there. And so literally like it came out, we were all like, oh shit, there's a call. And so the fire truck, the fire service in our town is like ridiculously well staffed for a volunteer agency. I mean, they are out the door on like pre-alert before it even gets like they are.
They're sitting there looking at the cat like, oh my god.
No, it's a staffed house.
100%.
It's a staffed house 24/7. Like it's pretty nuts. But I remember for that one, we're primarily only during our season, but then we technically are like all year round that we can do response, but it doesn't happen all year round because it gets so cold. But this one, we were still like getting ready for the season, but the call went out. And literally it was something that like I hopped out of a booth and ran over, and one of the fire chiefs was like just pulling around the corner. And I'm like, yo, let me get in, like I'll go as a swimmer. So I hop in with him and go. I'm not even in board shorts, I'm in like gym shorts. And it was for a kiteboarder in distress. And we pull up to, we have beach clubs here. I don't know if that's like a thing in Alabama. So we pull up to this beach club gate and I go running down the beach. Keep in mind, I think I maybe had a tort. I didn't have fins or anything. But it's May and it's like cold outside. It's like maybe 50, 60 degrees or something like that. And the water is like...
That's crazy.
And I dive in, and he wasn't too far out, but I remember diving in, and my head hit the water, and as soon as I popped up, it was just like mind-numbingly cold. And I remember like there were a couple firefighters on the beach, and I had like beat them out there, so I'm like, this is my rescue. Like I'm the lifeguard, I'm beating them. And so they stayed on the beach once they saw me get in the water, and I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I really need to freestyle swim out to this person. Like, I cannot look like a bitch. Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, fighting it, and I'll, like, freestyle for a couple seconds, and then my head will just, like, it was so cold that I'd get, like, disoriented. So I'd start, like, I'd breaststroke for one or two. I'm like, dude, I look like such a bitch. And I'd start freestyling again, and I fucking get out to the guy, and he's, like, fine. He's like, yeah, man, I fell off my board. I was like, need help getting in? He's like, no. And I'm like, I guess I'll just hang out with you until we get in there. And I go in, and literally the ambulance had to like come, because I got out, and I'm like, he's good, guys. Like, we're all good here. And it gets so fucking cold. It's insane. But I'm going to hit a pivot on topics. So you guys mentioned before, I'd asked about like initially starting it up, kind of protocol, stuff like that. What does your guys' training look like for it now? Like if you have a guard that they're going to qualify for the helicopter, what kind of stuff do you put them through? What sort of, if there's any like extra swim requirements, all that kind of stuff? Or is it just like, hey, this is a seasoned person, we know they're good, and then like the program that you put them through to like get cleared to be on the helicopter?
So if we have a brand new person who new to the Helo Ops, usually a third or fourth year seasonal, we will do a 2-day class, and it will be a joint class between Orange Beach and Gulf Shores. And we'll go to the Gulf Shores Beach Rescue HQ, and we'll spend about 4 hours or so just death by PowerPoint, because it has to be done.
Yeah.
Going over the whole entire Helo, as much as we need to know, like, you know, stuff like
pertinent stuff.
Yeah, stuff like, hey, if the pilot goes out for some reason or another, or we make a unintentional landing, where's the brake for the rotor? How do you shut off the engine? Which way do you go out if it catches on fire? Like stuff like that. Yeah. But we'll do that, and we'll go over the actual operations of deploying from the helo, the different positions in the helo, who's doing what, where, and then we'll break for lunch, and we'll go over to the Coast Guard Training Center in Mobile, where they've got a really good hookup for us. They've got I think it's a 15, maybe like an 18-foot high dive platform. We'll do that, and we'll have one group do that, and while they do that, the other group will do the sweat chair or the submerged water extrication trainer, which is just this PVC rig with a chair in it, and it also has a headset that you can plug in, as well as usually a 4 or 6 point harness seatbelt. And so what we'll brief them, we'll say, hey, you're this position swimmer, so that way they know which side they would have the door on. And then you flip them, you hold them on the water for about 10 to 15 seconds, because if you do happen to make a waterborne crash in the helo, it's going to hit, it's going to rest, and then it's going to flip, because it's going to be top heavy where the engine's at. So you have to sit there for about 10 to 15 seconds and just let it happen. And then you have to know where your point of reference is to make an exit. And everyone has to do that successfully twice. Then day 2, we'll get back together, have the helo at the LZ, and we'll do some deployments. And then they'll be good to go. And then every year after that, we'll do 1, maybe 2 trainings a year of just like a refresher deployment. Like, hey, we're just going to do some deployments, go over the protocols again, go have some fun.
That's super cool. That kind of led me into my next question too. So Taylor, I know when we were talking like through the DMs initially, you had said that at some point the Coast Guard got involved and saw you guys doing this stuff, and basically, like, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of invited you guys in, like, hey, if you're going to be doing this, let's help you out a little bit and get some traditional training. Because also the pool, was that like the classic like rescue swimmer school pool that like they have in the YouTube videos kind of thing?
It's not like the Guardian. It's not that cool.
Okay.
I do think they have an indoor setup, but I don't think they were like, I don't know, let's fucking lifeguards get in this pool. No.
That's what I was imagining in my head.
Yeah. Like fake rotor wash.
Yeah.
And like ice tub scene.
Yeah, they got hoses spraying us the whole time. No, they kind of, they invited us, and it was a gesture of goodwill, but at the same time, it was also like, hey, you don't have an option. Like, you have to work with us. Because, again, I think it initially started as just a really good PR thing. And when we eventually did have an actual deployment, they said, wait, you actually jump out of the hookup? Mm-hmm. Oh, no. We got to do something about this. So they brought us in, and they were super helpful. Last time we did it, we had one guy who had been AST, I think, for like 15 or 16 years. He'd been everywhere. His last deployment was Kodiak. He was on his sunset deployment because the Coast Guard station in Mobile is, I think, one of like 2 rotor wing training facilities that they have. So we were like, this is literally just perfect.
Yeah.
And then we had a guy that worked with us for a year and some change, post-retirement from his Coast Guard career. He came on, and this dude was, I'm pretty sure, the actual inspiration for the Guardian. This dude had been everywhere. He'd done 25 years as a swimmer. He turned down a promotion because he was like, I don't want to wear my Class A's in the Pentagon every day. I want to be a swimmer. And so he helped us revamp the SOPs, tell us how we need to do things a little bit better, clean it up a little bit. And so just everything all came together at once. Like, it was very much like it was not even coincidence. It was purely like God-driven. Like, this is just perfect time.
Yeah, seriously.
Now, is there ever like an unprofessional competition between you guys and the Coast Guard about how many grabs they can make?
Probably not. Probably not. I'm sure they could look at us, a couple of us, and like interact and probably heard our background, stuff like that. These dudes are pretty top notch, but they ain't on the same level. Okay. There's levels to it. I'll tell you a quick story. I hadn't talked to him in a while, but I need to holler at my boy. Back when I was a supervisor down in Gulf Shores, we had a dude who was a seasoned lifeguard, Bracken. Bracken is just an awesome dude. This dude has ran in Flagstaff. He was like trying to compete competitively for like long distance running in Worlds, Nationals. I think he was training with some Olympians at one point. And the dude is great. Dude's awesome. He was like a substitute teacher, and then became a full-time teacher. He's got a couple degrees, and the dude just has done a ton of things. And then, like, he's like, oh, man, I just thought I'd come kick it as a lifeguard for a little while. I don't know. He signed up for the Coast Guard. He talked to the fellow that we're talking about. He signed up with the Coast Guard. He's like, yeah, I think I'm going to try to become a rescue swimmer. And he was one of one in his graduating class. And he was like that for a while. And it wasn't like the week leading up to, like, hey, everybody else failed out because of standards or whatever. Bracken, shout out to my boy Bracken, freaking, he was there for a hot minute, and the dude's crushing it. Dude's awesome.
Sick.
Yeah, that is super sick.
I have a hilarious story about Bracken, dude. He was hauling butt in a Honda 700. They're a little underpowered. They're not super great, especially for our soft sand. I know we were talking about that earlier, but our soft sand was a little underpowered for it. But dude, we had just got off a it wasn't a Codex, but it was a drowned victim swimmer down in the state park. It was like right as I was about to get off too. We haul down there, work a code, send that dude to the hospital. And then next you know, another swimmer call goes out. So my buddy Bob takes care of that one. I'm trying to get back to the station. I got a full report to write. I got my whole thing. I'm trying to restock, clean the truck out a little bit. So I'm trying to get back. Another call pops down on West Beach, and I hear Bracken going to it. Man, it is almost dark. It's getting late for us, and this is like summertime stuff. So sunset's a little later. So I was like, man, it's almost getting dark. He doesn't need to be out there by himself. I was like, hey, I hope y'all don't have anywhere else to be. I had a couple of rookies with me. I was like, I hope y'all don't have anywhere else to be because we got to take this call. So we light up, we run, get down there. Well, I was like, I'm not sure where he was at exactly, but he wasn't too far away. We were able to catch up to him, driving in traffic, trying to get to that beach. I look over, and Bracken, he just shaved his head because he's about to go to Coast Guard school. He just shaved his head. He's out there in his white collar shirt, sunglasses on. He is so lean back, got one hand on the steering wheel. He is giving this Honda hell, and he is going up, hits a little dune that's just weird on the beach that day, and he just gets a little air, lands back down, and I was like, man, look at Bracken go. I stopped what I was doing completely. I was driving. I was like, man, look at that guy, just living life. All right, we got to get back to what we're doing. And it was just an iconic moment. I'll never forget it. That's one of my favorite stories about Bracken. He's so funny. He's a funny individual. And he knew what he was doing the whole time, too. He looked over, saw us.
Yeah. That is awesome. So my last question, Taylor, I know going back to the DMs, you had talked about, I'm going to preface this. I have no affiliation with the USLA. I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not sponsored by them. I do not speak on behalf of them. I'm an entirely independent thing. But I know we had talked about that you were looking into kind of maybe working with the USLA or getting even outside of that, like a national kind of scale, like basic training set up and certification, sort of in the way that there's the PWC certs or the AART, whatever it is, ART certs, and getting that going. Is that something that you're still working on? Where are you with that? Or if it's something that you haven't made any actual progress towards, what do you imagine that looking like?
So that's a little side project I keep in the back of my head, just because there's going to be so much red tape with it. Because part of the problem, and I'll call it a problem, with the USLA certifications, the way that they go, is that yes, they give out certifications to standardize abilities of lifeguard agencies, and individuals get certified through an agency, but that individual themselves does not hold that certification, which that kind of makes it a challenge, because then along with that, yes, there are different certifications. Like I just got my PRWC operator certification at a neighboring agency, but I don't hold that. My agency holds that. My name is attached to that. So part of the problem is how to approach creating that standard when there's so many different kinds of helos, so many different kinds of environments, so many different kinds of people in different agencies, different personalities, different abilities, different skill levels, different ranks, positions, all that, how to approach that. But the thing that sticks out to me is, because we didn't go over it, but when we redid our SOPs, we added a third rider in the helo that's riding backwards, and that's the crew chief position. So that person's not ever going to get out of the helo unless, it's snowing in hell. It's not going to happen. That person does all the comms. That person is in charge of the cab where the swimmers are at. So swimmers are not going to deploy until the crew chief says they are. I look at, I think it's Huntington has put lifeguards on a little bird that either their city police agency or their state agency has. So they provide the bird and the pilots. But I look at their post and it's it's a cool edit. It's really fun to watch. But the professional part of me looks at it and is I hate everything about this. They're not secured to the helo. They're sitting on the rail. They have nothing in place from what I can see to keep them secured to the helo. If there's, a flock of seagulls or a gust of wind, what's going to keep that swimmer from just literally falling out of the helo? Yeah. And they don't have a crew chief, from what I can tell. Is the pilot in charge of locating the swimmer running the case and giving commands to the swimmer. Does the swimmer just go with their own free will to deploy whenever they feel like it? So it would be nice to try and see some kind of national standardization through the USLA, because there are so many agencies that I think have a surprising amount of resources at their disposal to create an integrated interagency operation to do helo deployments. Because again, it all just goes back to necessity. I don't know what y'all's JD looks like. I don't know how big y'all's JD is. I don't know what the concentration of people is, or if you have unincorporated areas like we do. But it ultimately all goes back to a swimming stress call is one of the very few calls that has a hard time limit on it, of 2 minutes on average. The grand question is, how can we get a trained lifeguard in the water to that swimmer in distress as close to that 2 minutes as possible? Ultimately, I think if we make a national standardization certification through the USLA for helicopter rescue swimmers, I think that would make things a lot easier and probably end up making a couple grabs that otherwise wouldn't happen.
Taylor been reading.
Well,
Cut out.
I hate to break it to you, but like the last 5 to 10 seconds, you guys froze on us so hard.
Oh, damn.
But it was only like, it was the last like sentence I think cut out. But we got the gist of what you were saying. But yeah, man, that sounds cool. And hopefully, kind of like my goal with doing this is at least maybe start a conversation about it.
Well, I wonder if we could do it like countywide. Because like
It
Monmouth
would have
County,
to be.
USLA.
Yeah, I think so like our specific beach, we would not have a justifiable use for it because we don't have enough area. Like we just flat out do not have enough area. We can more than reasonably respond by road to places. I don't know, like down like in South Jersey, it gets a little more spread out. So like LBI stuff like that. So I don't know if like down there maybe, but I do think it would be very dependent. Like you guys do have a unique situation. Like, hey, you have this response area that's like you're right. Like this is one of the few calls that like, hey, us getting there in a timely fashion is like a truly life or death thing. Short of people like being actively shot at kind of call. But I think it would be very unique to whatever patrol it is that like, hey, what are your circumstances, stuff like that. And I can't think of anywhere around here that would be something that would be like justified. But yeah, I think that's all super interesting. I'm gonna wrap things up. Do you guys have anything last you want to say before I stop the recording?
I appreciate y'all's time. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, appreciate having you guys. This was super cool.